Now, the UK market is very definitely open for global business, perhaps more so than it's been for many years, particularly with the Chancellor's initiatives both reaching outwards to Southeast Asia and China and reaching inwards to the Northern Powerhouse, which I'll talk about as one of the big opportunities coming investors' way globally. It's important in the UK market, I think, to distinguish between the white noise of the market, the rising asset prices and the other racket that's going on around that, and to distinguish that from the longer term structural needs of the UK economy. And it seems to me that any sensible investor should be positioning themselves behind the long-term structural movements within the UK economy rather than simply asset chasing. So I want to talk to you about those opportunities, those big structural movements within the UK economy, which it's sensible, I think, for all global investors to look at and to follow the one that takes their fancy. Now, there are a number of research papers prepared for the IMF, amongst other global institutions, which show that an investment of every £1 invested in infrastructure can yield a return of £3. So it is basic economic wisdom that one should invest in infrastructure, and the UK is doing that, promising to spend 50 billion on HS2, the great railway line, high-speed railway line, which will link Birmingham and then ultimately Leeds and Manchester with London. And it seems to me that particularly the link to Birmingham could create something of a southern powerhouse, with Birmingham and London becoming one giant business district within which investors can play. And it seems to me that it'd be an astute investor that would now get behind these long-term infrastructure projects, because they can generate the long-term returns over many, many years, which sensible investors, sovereign wealths and investors with slow money look for. A great example, of course, is Hinkley Point, where heavy Chinese investment is helping to unlock the UK's nuclear future. Another area of the UK economy, and it literally is an area, it's a city and it's London, is one that I think needs very little introduction, but does still present some fantastic opportunities for global investors. In this sense, because by 2050 there will be 11 million Londoners, and it is clear that in order to deal with them, the transport capacity for London will have to be increased by 50%, and 1.5 million new homes will need to be built in London. And that is an enormous opportunity. London has recently come top of PwC's survey of global cities as one of the best places in the world, or the best place in the world to do business. It has an enormous concentration of global HQs. It has an enormous level of livability. It just needs to deal with its infrastructure to make sure that it can get people about easily. It already has a good tube system and a good overground railway system, but that needs improving. So there are enormous opportunities within the London market for the astute global investor. And then moving north, up as it were the notional HS2 railway line, to the Northern Powerhouse and to Manchester. This is something that is of enormous interest to the current government. George Osborne, who himself is a Manchester MP, trusts Sir Howard Bernstein, who is the Mayor of Manchester, and he, therefore, because governance matters, good governance matters, he feels that he can empower Manchester and give it the power to retain its business rate and to raise its business rates and to reinvest them in Manchester infrastructure. And the Northern Powerhouse, I think, is something that already is piquing global investors' interests. Chinese investors recently invested £60 million in a series of joint ventures with Scarborough, the powerful northern developer. And UK institutions have been leading the way into the Manchester market. We at Eversheds recently represented Legal & General in the UK Media City joint venture. Media City is the headquarters in the north of the BBC and of ITV, but it also has an enormous residential housing opportunity and opportunities to link it up with infrastructure to make a great Salford development area. Salford, once known as a dirty old town, potentially becoming the very hub of the UK media industry. And also we represented Legal & General in their joint venture with Scarborough at Thorpe Park, 120 million joint venture to redevelop Thorpe Park, the giant business centre, but also a residential and infrastructure development opportunity. So the Northern Powerhouse, a great opportunity, something that the UK government are right behind, and any investor looking to invest there will find the Chancellor waiting for them with open arms. The UK needs about 250,000 houses a year in order to house its growing population. It's currently only managing to build about 100,000. The government, and indeed everyone in the UK, has realised that this is a crisis, and the government has set a target for building 1 million new homes before 2020. It's a highly ambitious target, but it's one that can be realised by a combination of government investment and investment from global investors, as well as from UK institutions. But it's important that all of that money works together in partnership and in structured joint ventures to deliver the housing needs of the UK. So to give you an example of a recent investment, China Vanke has just taken 20% in a Shoreditch scheme, a 750 million Shoreditch scheme, which is mixed use, anchored with residential, but also carrying offices and retail. And wherever there is a residential element, I would suggest that this is something that global investors should be looking very carefully at. There's also a headquarters opportunity, both London and in the Northern Powerhouse area. London has more global HQs than any other city. I've mentioned before its livability, its world-class universities. It has 2 of the world's top universities, top 10 universities within its boundaries. It's just a phenomenal cultural centre, and it's a great place to locate your HQ. And we at Eversheds recently represented Facebook in taking their new 250,000 square foot European headquarters building in the West End. So the UK is open for business. The important thing is not to be distracted by assets and over-pumped up asset prices, but to look at the structural movements within the UK economy and to get behind them. That's to look at the housing crisis, infrastructure, the Northern Powerhouse, London, and the opportunity to locate your headquarters in the world's most exciting and vibrant cities.